Greetings! Today we're going to talk about artificial sweeteners. Now, we all love sweet food, tastes really good, and there's a plethora of it on the market. Now, there are three main ways that people who make food can sweeten food. They can add sugar, they can add natural sweeteners, maybe like honey or monk fruit, and then artificial sweeteners. So things like sucralose or saccharin. You may be familiar with those. They're in all kinds of food these days, even in foods for kids. Now, they are approved by the FDA, but the question we want to ask ourselves, are they really healthy? Are they unhealthy? Now, this is a question that's been investigated, but still is not yet settled science. Remember, we talked about that in previous videos. Settled science means a scientific consensus that this is the conclusion that we've all reached. Now, the reason why this isn't settled science yet about artificial sweeteners is some studies say yes, it is unhealthy, and some studies say no. Now, ultimately, you have to make your own decision. Am I going to continue to eat foods that have artificial sweeteners in them? But how are you going to decide if there's no conclusive outcome on the debate? So the way I approach this is I use a form of decision analysis. Decision analysis is a way of measuring pros and cons, deciding what factors to give what kinds of weights, popularized at places like Harvard Business School. So I want to give you some examples. So how do I decide using decision science? Well, let's say I have to decide whether or not I want to add something to my longevity plan. Maybe it's a new supplement that's come out, but it's not settled science yet. So the research is still debating back and forth. Does this increase lifespan? Does this produce health benefits? Some studies say yes, it does. Some studies say no, we haven't found a difference. So how do I decide? Well, what I would do is I would ask myself, okay, the trade-off really is between getting a positive benefit or getting nothing at all. I get a benefit, or maybe the worst case is I lose some money. I spend money on a supplement, but I don't get any benefit. So in those cases, if there's enough evidence to support that there's some benefit, I'm likely to try it and see if it works for me, because if it is good, I'm going to get a benefit. I'll be healthier, maybe I'll live longer, and if not, okay, I've lost some money, but it's not the end of the world. Now let's say the flip side. Do I give something up because there's maybe some research that suggests it's harmful? So think about the old smoking debate back in the 50s, the 60s, for those of you like me who are older. Medical science was telling us smoking is bad for your health. The tobacco companies were saying we've run our own studies and we find that it's not harmful at all. So now I have to decide whether to give it up or do nothing and keep it. So for me, this is a decision between protecting my health, avoiding something negative, or if I give it up and it turns out it was fine, the worst thing that's happened is that I maybe lost some pleasure, the joy I might have otherwise gotten from smoking. So in that case, because the negative outcome could be pretty serious if it really is bad, whereas if it's not, what I lose by giving it up isn't that bad at all, I might be inclined to give up the thing that potentially is bad. So the question now confronting us is artificial sweeteners. What do the studies say? Is it bad or not bad? So let's take a look. So first, there are some studies that suggest that artificial sweeteners may be addictive. And think about it. Why else put them in there? The food manufacturers want you to keep eating it. Now, how is it addictive? What's the mechanism? Well, remember, when you eat something sweet, you're signaling the brain, hey, this is good stuff and calories are coming. Be ready to be nourished. But artificial sweeteners don't have any calories. So all of a sudden your brain's like, where's the calories? Maybe you need to eat more. So it sends a signal to you, eat more food. So you start getting addicted to it. May affect your gut biome and change how your food is digested, because most artificial sweeteners are non-nutritive. They have nutritional value. And there's some evidence it may cause insulin resistance. Now, I watch videos a lot and I hear the term insulin resistance a lot, so maybe you're not sure exactly when you hear it what that means. So insulin is something, it's a hormone produced by your pancreas. And what it does is it regulates sugar, the processing of sugar in your body. So when there's sugar in your blood, your pancreas says, oh look, it's feeding time. So it produces insulin, it tells your cells, okay, feeding time, open up, let the sugar in. If the cells don't do that, the pancreas thinks, okay, wait a minute, the cells didn't get the message. Produce more insulin, get those cells to open up and process that sugar. And if it keeps having to do that because the cells are being resistant, they're not opening up, they're not taking in the sugar, your blood sugar spiking more and more, the pancreas keeps producing more and more insulin. Eventually, it reaches a point where it gets exhausted. It wears itself out. It can't produce enough insulin. And then potentially you become pre-diabetic or even ultimately diabetic. So that's why when you hear insulin resistance, it's something you should care about. All right, artificial sweeteners can lead to obesity. And you might be thinking, but wait a minute, that sounds paradoxical. How can something with no calories make you fat? Well, the artificial sweeteners themselves won't make you fat. But think about what we just said earlier about how they may be addictive, how they signal it to your brain, good things are coming and it's not coming, so you're eating more. So if you're addictive, if your brain is telling you to eat more and more, it's the other calories that are in that food that could make you obese. In fact, there was a 2020 review of 39 studies focusing largely on sweetened beverages, so artificially sweetened beverages like a diet soda. And they found that for each 250 milliliters that people drank, so this is additive now, 250 milliliters is just over an 8-ounce cup, it increased the risk of obesity by 21%. So the more you drank, the more your risk went up. Now, I did mention before this isn't settled science, but a 2017 review found that there was no effect on obesity in randomized control trials. That's the trials where they give some people the artificially sweetened beverages and then control conditions that don't get it. But they did find small effects in cohort studies. That's when you just studied people who naturally take this on their own. So not totally settled science on whether it leads to obesity. But the same 2020 review of 39 studies found the following. For every 250 milliliters of artificially sweetened beverages somebody ate, there was a 15% increase in the risk of type 2 diabetes mellitus, an 8% increase in the risk of high blood pressure, and a 6% increase in all-cause mortality. All-cause mortality means death from any cause. Now, this last finding was echoed in a 2019 study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. They looked over a period of 16 years, so a very long-term study. They had hundreds of thousands of people in the study, and they looked at people who drank more than 2 glasses of beverages with artificial sweeteners in them, and compared them to people who drank less than 1 glass per day. What do they find? All-cause mortality was 26% higher in the 16-year period. And death from circulatory disease was 52% higher. So a very big jump. On the other hand, again, not settled science, 2019 study, British Medical Journal, found no increase in cancer risk from people who took artificial sweeteners in their diets. So what does this all mean? Again, you ultimately have to make the decision for yourself. For me, using this decision analytic approach, I look at the summary of data and I say, you know what? There seems to be a good amount of evidence out there that artificial sweeteners are unhealthy. And there's nothing out there that suggests they're beneficial. So if I take them in my diet, I don't really have anything to gain except maybe some taste. On the other hand, if I keep them in my diet, I may be incurring health risks, which could be prevented if I eliminate them. So as a personal choice, I try to eliminate artificial sweeteners from my diet as much as possible. Now remember, this video was just about artificial sweeteners. We still see a lot of foods using natural sweeteners, things like honey and monk fruit. And that's going to be a subject of another video. If you like this video, please give us a like, please subscribe, and importantly, leave your comments. Remember, we can always learn from each other. Let us know your experiences with artificial sweeteners and what you do and any positive or negative effects that you might have felt. Thank you very much for watching. Your journey to a younger, healthier you starts here.